Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who is doing this entire podcast in complete darkness. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Am I in darkness? Do I look dark?
No, well, that's an Aaron Rodgers reference.
Oh, yeah, I see now. I'm sorry, I dropped the ball on that one.
It's okay. It's much like a lot of Patriots receivers last season.
That was uncalled for.
All right. Well, Kyle, today we'll be talking about four teams. One team very close to your heart, the New England Patriots, along with the rest of the AFC East. I look forward to hearing you tear down three of these teams and talk about why one of these teams is massively underrated this season.
Yeah. This is a fascinating division. I think every one of these teams are talking to themselves into a playoff trip. And part of what makes the AFC so competitive is, we're going to do this and we're going to do the AFC North next week. All 8 of these teams are capable of making the playoffs, in my opinion. I had this ranked as the best division in football. I think those two are probably 1-2 in some order, and I think it's really close. But yeah, I think the floor on all these teams are a little bit higher. That's why I give it the number 1, and it's going to be really competitive. It's going to be really tough to find winners.
I think the reality is, I think 3 of these teams are talking themselves into not just playoffs berth, but a Super Bowl berth. And like you said, the Patriots are certainly no slouches as the other team. And I also think that I think this might be the most interesting division to talk about, Kyle. I mean, you think about obviously Aaron Rodgers. Any division of Aaron Rodgers is going to be one of the most interesting divisions to talk about. The Dolphins and their new additions is very fascinating. The Bills and can they get over the hump? And even the Patriots are still a very interesting team to talk about. So this is I'm excited.
Yeah. There's a lot to get into. I think every one of these teams, whoever gets third, third, and second are going to be upset with our rankings. That's just that's the nature of it. That's the nature of this division at this point.
Yeah. Why don't we just jump into it? Who do you have finishing 4th in this division?
It hurts me to say this. We're going to get into it with all these teams here in a second. I think this team has the lowest ceiling, and therefore they have to go 4th in my rankings, and that's New England Patriots. This is my team. I have them finishing 4th in this division. I think they might have a higher floor than the team I have finishing 3rd, and we're going to get into that in a second. But I do think their ceiling's much lower, and it comes down to, look, I think this offense is going to be better this season. I mean, it can't get any worse than what it was last year. I think it is going to get better this season, but the fact is that we have 3 quarterbacks we feel like can play at a top 10 level, and then the 4th is Mac Jones, who you could say, you know what, Mac Jones doesn't have the weapons of someone like Tua. You could say things like that, but Mac Jones was bad last year. No, there's no other, you could say all the extenuating circumstances that made Mac Jones bad. He was just flat out a bad quarterback last year, and that was the big problem. And this is a make or break year for basically his career at this point, because he has to show that he's able to play on this team.
And to be honest, I don't think it's out of question that he could lose his job this season if things go poorly, if things start poorly. Because Bailey Zappi did show some flashes when he came in there. As of right now, we talk about the 2 most important people in the organization, the quarterback and the head coach. I have it as a tier 4 quarterback and a tier 3 head coach because, and we could touch on Belichick in a second, but the quarterback, I mean, Mac Jones had a really good rookie year, but the goal is not to have a really good rookie year. It's to continue to show strength and get better year in and year out. Now, we can kind of gloss over the excuses, but there are still valid excuses, right? He did have Matt Patricia as the offensive I believe it's the play caller, at least offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So like,
and Joe Judge.
Yeah. So like, that's not a lot of guys to throw to, not a disaster, but not a lot of guys to throw to. It wasn't a great situation.
No, it was not. It was a terrible situation, and they made it worse by also, I don't know, being sort of vindictive. Like, apparently Kendrick Bourne was, said something to Matt Patricia during the offseason and then basically just barely played last year, which, Kendrick Bourne is not a superstar, but when your guy is getting separation, or Jacoby Myers and Devontae Parker, it would help to have a Kendrick Bourne out there who can actually get some separation too. So that was a big part of it. Jacoby Myers was probably their best receivers last year. He's out. They bring Juju Smith-Schuster in. There's not a huge difference there, but yeah, I mean, I do think the weapons are going to be better this year. And I think the play calling should just straight up be better. So I don't know what Mac Jones needs to do to keep his job. Like if he performs basically to his rookie year standards, what he was his rookie year. I don't know if that's saying he's back on the right track. We can rely on him for the future, something like that. If he needs to be better than that, I don't know how much better he can be than that. And this is coming off a rookie year where we thought, maybe this guy plays his way into the Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill tier. I don't think anyone ever said he was going to be like a top 5 guy in the league. So it's just going to be interesting to see how that plays out for him and how good he needs to be to kind of keep this job.
You brought up the weapons. I had this as a tier 4 wide receiving core right now because you have, Kendrick Bourne, Devontae Parker, Juju Smith-Schuster. Also, tight ends definitely do some heavy lifting here with Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. But, a lot of different guys who could do specific roles. But we've seen this have mixed results, I think, these past couple years of the Patriots trying to do this. I do have tier 2 receiving, tier 2 running back room because I like Ramondre Stevenson. But, they like to mix and match with these receivers, and it's had mixed results, Kyle.
It has had mixed results. Patriots, throughout the Belichick history, have kind of gone through this where they're gonna try and patch it together. I think the one thing you could say is like everyone who's gonna play is at least a solid football player. Like Smith-Schuster's solid, Parker's solid. I still have some faith in Tyquan Thornton. I like some of the stuff I saw his rookie year. I think he can be solid. Bourne solid. Gesicki obviously has been pretty solid throughout his career. Hunter Henry, kind of the same thing. So, like, none of those guys are stiffs or anything. There's no weak links. It's just this team could use a DeAndre Hopkins, if you will.
If only he was available.
Yeah. But I mean, that'd make a huge difference, right? Like this is probably tier 3 bordering tier 2. If you just add a number 1 option, they just don't have that number 1 option. Couple guys to watch, young guys. So it's kind of, we'll see what happens. Demario Douglas has really impressed in camp. He's a guy that, could show out maybe this season, maybe next season. He's got some athletic capabilities. Keyshawn Butte is another rookie they drafted who's, shown flashes. And I think, if you go back to his junior year in college at LSU, he was probably a first-round receiver, fell way down to the 7th round last year for a lot of, weird stuff going on with LSU. And then the last one's Malik Cunningham, who is listed currently as their 4th-string quarterback. He played quarterback at Louisville, but this guy's a heck of an athlete, and I think they're going to find some unique ways to put him on the field if he makes the rosters. So a couple deep cut guys to look at there, but the receivers in general lacking stars, and that's just kind of the theme of the Patriots this year is lacking stars.
If Malik Cunningham ends up being a significant contributor this year, Kyle, I mean, what a call by you to bring that up. The undrafted 4th-string quarterback.
Hey man, he's got the legs. I mean, it wasn't a huge drop off between Lamar Jackson and him at Louisville. It was a little bit of a drop off, but he's got the athletic capabilities to play in this league.
Well, we'll see if he ends up getting some playing time. The offensive line, I like this offensive line by the Patriots.
Yeah.
I really do. I have it as a tier 2 offensive line. I'm interested in seeing what we'll see out of Trent Brown, right? Definitely another guy who, you like him when he's at his best. You also have him when he's on the field. Riley Reif, I think, should be a solid right tackle. I think David Andrews and Michael Onwenu, you feel very good about on the inside. Cole Strange, we'll see if he lives up to the 1st round, selection that the Patriots spent on him. I think that he kind of looked like a 3rd rounder last year, but that's not a disaster either. So I like it. I'm going to give this a tier 2 offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, this is another group where if Trent Brown plays to his potential, it could be tier 1, right? Like, when he's at his best, that's kind of the level he plays at. The question is he ever, how often is he at his best? They did, the Isaiah Wynn thing needed to end, relationship needed to end, and that's probably the best for both parties. But I do think the one thing that, because there was talk of like maybe there's a Mike McGlinchey play in free agency. And instead, they kind of just went for depth in this one. And I think I kind of like what they did. Because like you said, Reef's at least solid right tackle. Their backups too, Connor McDermott and Calvin Anderson, like those are both pretty good players that aren't starters on this team. So like they go, 7, potentially 8 deep when you look at like James Ferentz and those guys. So they got a lot of guys they can rotate in and out on offensive line if there's an injury.
Yeah, and again, it's the Patriots. I'm sure some undrafted guy they had is going to step in, and if he has to play 500 snaps, he'll do well. Like they do offensive line well.
Yep. Yep. Not the same offensive line coach for all of those years, but they still do pretty well.
Yeah. The defense, I think probably the most exciting thing about this team is their coverage unit. You have, the Joneses with Jonathan and Jack Jones at the cornerback position. Also, they drafted Christian Gonzalez. Very fascinated into seeing how he'll do year one. But even if he doesn't come in and play great right away, they don't need him because they have they have plenty of guys. Kyle Duggar, Adrian Phillips at the safety position, and there's plenty of other players. I don't know, maybe Jalen Mills bounces back a little bit. There's so many different guys that they have that can come in, like Jabril Peppers as well. And that's kind of just how they do things. They mix and match, and it's Bill Belichick. It's going to be great. It's a tier 1 coverage unit for me.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it really is. I mean, the interesting thing for me for this group is like, who exactly plays. Like, I hope Jack Jones isn't suspended, long. I think he could face a suspension because of his off the field thing from this past summer. But I mean, he looked terrific last year as rookie corner. I was big Christian Gonzalez fan in the draft, thrilled when he fell to them. I think Jonathan Jones is even, if Jonathan Jones is our third corner this year, this is the best coverage unit in the league, maybe. Like he's a good, number 2 option. Never mind number 3. I think Marcus Jones is a playmaker. I'm curious to see how much he's used on defense. I think he could play both sides of the ball. Then you look at, Duggar's a stud. Adrian Phillips is awesome. The one thing, Peppers is still a pretty good player too. The one thing I'm looking at with this group for coverage unit is the departure of Devin McCourty, who obviously retired and was one of the best players on this defense for a number of years. Who's going to play that deep line safety role? Is it going to be Phillips moving back there? He's versatile enough, I think, to do it. They're moving Jalen Mills back to safety when he's played corner the last few years. Is that going to be him? One of those guys going to have to kind of handle that center field role that McCourty has kind of just had for so long. But I think they got so many guys that I'm not really that worried about it. I'm just curious who it's going to be.
Yeah. Very fascinating stuff there. I don't love this front 7. I'll be honest, Kyle. I like Matt Judon. I don't think I like him as much as you do, but I like Matt Judon for sure. But Josh Uche, he can rush the passer, right? Dietrich Wise Jr., another edge rusher. Devon Godshaw did not grade particularly well last year for the Patriots. I still think he's a good player. I'm not overly concerned about that. I want to see what Christian Barmore does in year 2. Can he take that next step? Juwan Bentley, I like. Here's my question, Kyle. Are we really, is Jelani Tavai getting significant playing time this season for the Patriots? Is that what we're doing here?
No, actually, he's not. Training camp buzz, baby. It is it is Marte Mapu season. The 3rd round pick out of Sacramento State has he's gotten a lot of reps at linebacker. They're excited for him, so he could be the guy there next to Bentley.
Just to be clear, has this been officially announced he's going to be this, or is this it looks like it's trending that way?
He's gotten reps. They haven't. I don't know if they've released a depth chart yet. But he is a guy to watch this season. If I think it's safe to put Tavai there for now, but at the same time, I think he's someone who could. Not like safe that it's like the right option, but at the same time, I think he's the one who is the safe pick that's going to be the starter. Not necessarily that it should be the starter.
Gotcha.
If Mapu takes that job from him though as a rookie 3rd round pick, I'm excited to see what he can do. I think it could be maybe a draft day steal.
Yeah, I do have to say, in fairness to Tavai, he played about 570 snaps last year and graded very well according to PFF. Now, small sample size, but maybe, we did kind of say when the Patriots got him, the Patriots, of course, are going to turn him into an all-pro. So maybe it's working out.
Yeah, the thing is, they're going to put 5 or 6 defensive backs on the field. A lot of plays. They don't ask their linebackers to cover, and that's really been the best thing for Juwan Bentley because Juwan Bentley has kind of turned into a stud in the middle linebacker spot. And, I don't think coverage is a strong suit, but they put so many defensive backs around him and they have guys like Doug or Adrian Phillips who can come up in the box and play that it kind of makes up for their weaknesses in coverage. And that's another thing for Tavai as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about the safeties and how they can also help out in the run defense. So I'm going to give this tier threes across the board: run defense and pass rush. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's terrible either.
Did you see Matt Judon got NFL's top 100? He was like 33rd or something like that.
Okay.
That was a little extreme.
Wasn't like Trent Williams and Aaron Donald, like, didn't neither of them make the top 10?
Yeah, something like that. I think I like this pass rush a little more than you. I like him and Judon and Uche though.
Mhm.
I think that the depth is going to be interesting. They drafted Keon White, who has a lot of tools, could be interesting to watch. Trey Flowers, they just brought in, could be an interesting player. Dedrick Wise has always been pretty solid. So they have depth pieces, but, they really need big seasons out of Judon and Uche. And then I think the front, as far as the rush defense, are we going to finally get that Christian Barmore breakout season? We've been calling it for like 2-3 years now. If Christian Barmore actually breaks out, this could be a really good front seven because he still has a boatload of potential. And with him, Wise, Judon, Uche, that could be really special.
Yeah, the potential is certainly there. The thing about Uche is, like, he's a great pass rusher. I would like him more if he could get on the field for more than 350 snaps a year, right? Because, like, you just can't
Yeah.
justify putting him out there 3 downs. But if you could just get that run defense a little bit better, he could honestly be like a 10 sack guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he was close to that last year as it was.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Okay,
11 and a
so
half, so he was over that.
oh well, there you go. But like a consistent 10 sack guy is what I
Yeah,
mean.
exactly.
Uh, so for the Patriots, there's things to like about this team. There really is. It's just, and I see the potential. I would not be shocked at all if the Patriots make the playoffs next year. To me, this feels like another mediocre Patriots season that we've had basically since the Brady era is not bad, just mediocre. I'm going 8-9 here with this team. I just think that at the end of the day, I don't trust their passing attack. And to win in today's NFL, you need to have a good passing attack. So again, they're going to try to run the ball a lot. That's going to be their mindset. Use that to set up the passing game. They have an actual offensive coordinator now, so I'm interested in seeing how it's going to work. But I can't get too crazy about it, especially there's only really one thing I love about this roster as well.
Yeah, I mean, if the offense gets better, obviously this can be a pretty good team. A couple of things going against the Patriots, I think overall is we have to see it on the field with this offense. I believe in Bill O'Brien. I don't know how much I believe in him, but I think he can. It's going to be much better than it was last season. I think that's just a given. So it comes down to that, and can this offense stay healthy? Can it be better? And then the second thing that's tough is just the schedule. And as this being the best, the division I had ranked as the best in football, of course the schedule is going to be tough. But like you're opening home against Philly, home against Miami. They're both home games, so I guess it's a little better than it's at the Jets, at Cowboys. So that's 4 pretty tough games to open things up. And you end the season Chargers at home, at Pittsburgh, home to KC, at Denver, at Buffalo, and then home to the Jets. So you got a tough start and you got a tough finish in the schedule. I still think, even despite that, this Patriots team always has kind of felt like the last few years, somewhere between 7 and 10 wins, and I think 7 to 10 wins is the right thing.
Yeah. What do you think? Over, under 8 wins?
I'll go 9 and 8. Why not?
Okay,
Push.
sure.
Push
Might as
over.
well.
I think it's close. So yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about it. I mean, I still think this is a good team, and I think they're capable of making the playoffs. But I do think a lot needs to go right for them to make the playoffs.
One thing we kind of glossed over before we move on to team number 3, Bill Belichick. We've done this before, but we should make sure we mention him in this section. I brought him up as a tier 3 head coach at this point. There is a bit of this is out there, Kyle. I know we think we might think it's a little silly, but the Bill Belichick legacy thing of like, Belichick has not had a great run since Brady has left. And I think he probably had his best season as a coach, weirdly the worst year in the Cam Newton year, since, not as a, overall, but since Brady had left. I thought last year was kind of a mess. And I think he needs to rebound this year. I'm not going to bet against Bill Belichick, but this is an important year, I think, for Belichick, coming off of a year where he had his friend, who's a defensive guy, call plays and had it completely blow up in their face. He needs to have a decent year here.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there was a unequivocal disaster last year, right?
Hmm.
I think 2 years ago he made the playoffs with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
I'd say that was a good year.
Hmm.
And he had things like the two pass game against Buffalo that year, which I still think I continue to say I think on a game day preparation standpoint, I don't think there's a single coach in the league better than Belichick. I still think he is a master at taking an opponent's strength and trying to take it away. Even if he doesn't have necessarily the personnel to do it, I still think he prepares his team probably better than anybody. But the hiring of some of these coaches is definitely coming to question on his staff, and that's a huge part of being a coach. Um, and I think the second part of it is that the analytical side of things. Now, I think you could justify because when it comes to like the fourth down decision bot, like I think sometimes people just say, "Well, the book says do this, you should do this every time." Well, you have an offense that averages like 3.5 yards per play. I kind of understand punting more than the conventional wisdom, right? When you have an offense that's just not, productive, I understand saying, okay, we're going to punt and try and rely on our defense more. But at the same time, he went so far the other way that he was the least analytically inclined coach in the league, which is also bad.
Yeah.
um,
I still
so,
remember that game against the Colts where like they were down 14 with 10 minutes left and he kicked the field goal.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there have been some questionable decisions at the end of the day for the last couple of years. So I do think it's fair to call it into question. But I mean, as far as this legacy stuff goes, I still think he's one of the best coaches ever, probably the best coach ever. And I think,
Yeah.
like he's even said it when it comes to all of the accolades that come his way. A lot of it comes down to the players. You need to have a great quarterback. You need to have great, receivers to win in the NFL, and they just haven't had that. Part of that is on him though, because
Right.
he is making the decisions in the front office.
Yeah, that is pretty funny of like him being the GM and the head coach. What am I supposed to do? I don't have the players. How can I make it
Yeah.
happen? There are three more teams to talk about, Kyle. Honestly, I think you could argue either one of these three could win the division. I think you could argue either one of these three could win the Super Bowl. I don't think that's a
Yeah.
crazy take. I think these are three teams that are in the contender conversation. But you had said one has a lower floor than the New England Patriots. Which team is that?
Uh, that's the New York Jets for me.
Okay.
Similar to the Patriots, they have a much higher ceiling. I do agree that the
Mhm.
best version of this Jets team can win a Super Bowl. So I just want to start with that. But there are some concerns I have with this team heading into next season. Similar to the Patriots, this team could very easily call itself the best defense in football. I think they have the capability of doing that. They have plenty of talent to do that. They have a brilliant defensive coach, Robert Saleh. All that put together, this could be the best defense in football. I do have some concerns with this offense for next season. I know Aaron Rodgers is great. Aaron Rodgers is elite. He's won he's won a lot of MVPs. He's, one of the highest passer rating quarterbacks of all time. I think Garrett Wilson more than impressed his rookie year. He was fantastic. I think he's on his way to being an all-pro receiver. I have a little bit of concern with everything else. I think Brees Hall's a solid running back. I don't value running backs that much, though. I think this offensive line has the potential to be a disaster. I think the secondary receivers aren't much better than what he had in Green Bay. And so, yeah, I think the best thing about Aaron Rodgers, or the one weakness with Aaron Rodgers the last couple of years, has been his escapability from the pocket, which he was so good at for so long. He's a little older now. He can't do it the same. If this offensive line crumbles, it could be a rough offensive season for the Jets.
Yeah. Well, first off, his biggest issue, I would say his biggest weakness has been trying to play in the playoffs, but that's maybe a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But yes, let's talk about Rodgers. Again, talk about legacy defining seasons. What would this mean if Rodgers wins a Super Bowl? If Rodgers wins a Super Bowl here with the Jets, I mean, I don't know if he's ever going to be looked at in like the Brady tier by people who aren't like Rodgers stands, but like I think that it clearly puts him in the conversation for number two if he wins another MVP and wins a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd still have Manning there, but I think he's in that conversation. There's a couple
I just
guys
think
in that
you would
conversation.
see him pop up number two on list if he does
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely on the cards. You know, I I don't think it was great last year. And I'm curious to see how he bounces back from that because it's kind of been a weird back half of Rodgers' career, even if you take away the playoff stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how he performs this season. Is it a bounce back year? You know, was he kind of just checked out of that Green Bay situation last year? I think there's a lot of questions that go into it.
I have to say, so I watched the preseason game and they had an interview with Aaron Rodgers. The vibes are very good.
Hmm.
Vibes seemed very good. I thought that he seemed a lot happier there. He seemed a lot more focused on things than I typically see from Rodgers. Who knows what we're getting out of a preseason interview, but it just I don't know. I was just listening. I'm like, I'm kind of buying in a little bit. I'm kind of I'm feeling that I can picture the scenario. Now the flip side is if things go terribly, the New York media is going to let Rodgers know it, and that's just why
Yeah.
this is such a fascinating situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's all fascinating. So I think it could be very, I think he's going to be good. The problem is
Mhm.
that, I have questions on everyone else being good around him.
Well, let's talk about everyone else. Robert Saleh, I have as a tier 3 coach. Very good defensively, very good motivator. He was fringe tier 2, but for now he's just tier 3. You know, you brought up Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson was great last year. Garrett Wilson definitely it's showing that he could be a number 1 in this league. But like you said, the question is the other stuff. Who else are you throwing to? His good buddy Alan Lazard is there. Okay, that's something. You have McCole Hardman, Tyler Conklin at the tight end position. You have, Randall Cobb is still there. Corey Davis. Are we going to see something out of Corey Davis? Also for the running backs, yeah. Brees Hall coming off an injury. He looked very good in 233 snaps. Zonovan Knight's fine. Michael Carter, I think, is a fine back. So it's tier 3 running back room for me, and I'm going tier 4 wide receiver room because it's just, depth matters a lot at the wide receiver position, and right now I don't know if they have it.
Yeah. I am worried about the depth of this group. I mean, I don't know. Like, does Corey Davis get you excited as a number 2 receiver?
I mean, if he comes back, I mean he isn't 1,000-yard receiver, like he has shown that he can be an effective number 2 in a similar. I mean, when the Jets signed him, we were all like, oh yeah, perfect, great fit, should work out well, and it just hasn't worked out. So like
Yeah.
he's shown he can be a number 2 wide receiver, just not recently.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest concern is just can somebody else step up? Because we know Wilson's going to have, be able to put up numbers and he should be
Zach
awesome with
Wilson.
what Garrett Wilson. He should be awesome with what Aaron Rodgers does too. I like their tight ends. I like Uzuma and Conklin. So, I mean, it just comes down to can any of these guys be capable of a number 2? I just haven't seen it in a couple of years from these guys. Lazard maybe, but they were asking him to do that in Green Bay, and it felt we were lacking something.
Yeah, the offensive line is another offensive line might be the biggest boom or bust offensive line in the league because okay,
Mhm.
is Laken Tomlinson gonna have a bounce back season? Elijah Vera Tucker is very good at the guard position. Mekhi Becton looked good in his 7 preseason snaps. Is he back? They have rookie Joe Tippmann, who some people really liked in college, and then Dwayne Brown. That seems to be where they're hoping for. He's listed at 58 years old at left tackle. He's someone who I think, not coming off a great year. I'm not sure how optimistic you are about that, but again, it does happen where guys, play well later on in their career at the tackle position. So like again, he's actually, I don't even know why I exaggerated because he's going to turn 38 this offseason, or this during the season. That's almost more impressive than the exaggeration.
Yeah. Um, him and Aaron Rodgers being almost 40,
Uh-huh.
left tackle and quarterback. How many times have you seen that?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they really need Becton to be healthy. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Because, I mean, like, there's a chance that, whether it's Vera Tucker, Tomlinson, and McGovern, or if it's Sitman at center and McGovern plays guard, like, that could be a decent interior. But the tackles I have some real concern about. And I still have concern about that interior because Tomlinson wasn't great last year. McGovern, I don't know. We'll see. I'm skeptical of all that. And when you have a 39-year-old, 38-year-old quarterback, 39-year-old quarterback, however old he is now, I have concerns about if you're able to block for him, how healthy is he going to stay?
Yeah, why does no one ever know how old Aaron Rodgers is? I feel like with Brady,
39.
we knew every year this is how
Yeah.
old he is. Rodgers, it's like I don't know. It's kind of like, oh, whatever. You're not as old as Brady.
Yeah. That's basically what it was the last few years.
Yeah, he's 39.
Yeah.
39. That's how old he is. So there you go. The defense, Jets defense. You have you know one of the best rookies we've ever seen in NFL history going into his second year now, Sauce Gardner. I mean, that sounds like an exaggeration, but he was legitimately, debatably the best corner in football as a rookie, which is a position that typically takes time to develop. That's crazy. And on top of it, they do have depth at the corner position with, DJ Reed and Michael Carter as well. You have Jordan Whitehead. Now, the Chuck Clark injury hurts. They're going to have to figure out a way to, I don't know if Adrian Amos is going to be the guy. There's kind of an open competition right now for that. So, you would like to have him healthy, but I'm still giving this a tier 1 coverage grade.
Yeah, you have debatably the best cornerback in football.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's in his second year. I mean, it's unbelievable what Sauce did last year. And I mean, the question is, like, how does he get better at this point? Like, he might actually be the best in the league. How does he get better?
Yeah, I don't think he needs to get better. Just do what you did last year for your entire career, and you're in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's probably true. He was unbelievable. So, yeah, I mean, this is an awesome group. And like you said, there's depth. There would have been depth at safety, like you said, if Clark was healthy. But without Clark, it's basically Whitehead and Amos and maybe Tony Adams. So, like, they kind of need that second safety spot. But at the same time, if your worst position is, second safety, I think you're okay.
Yeah. I actually have some concerns about this front seven a little bit. I don't know if it's I think that, the secondary should be very good, but, Quentin Williams, awesome, right? He's great. Then it's like, I guess, Al Woods, I think, would be a fine, starting number 2 interior defensive lineman. What are we getting out of Carl Lawson, right? They paid him a bunch of money. What are we getting with him? You have John Franklin Myers, who is a solid depth guy. You have Michael Clemens, who is a solid depth guy. You also have, Jermaine Johnson. What's he going to do? They drafted Will McDonald. What's he So they have a lot of guys at the edge position, but there's still at this point question marks, I would say. So that's why I'm wondering what's going to happen there. I think they should still probably be fine at the edge rush position. Again, CJ Mosley, what are we getting out of him? Quincy Williams, I'm not sure, but okay, fine second linebacker. It is what it is. I think I'm going to give this tier 3s across the board, Kyle, because I just don't know. I just feel like there's some questions here. While I trust they'll figure it out, I can't sit here and assume that they're going to figure it out for a prediction. So I'm going to just go tier 3s for now.
I might go tier 2 in the middle just because I think Williams is that good. And Mosley's that good too. I mean, that's a really nice combo. But I just think, I think for the pass rush, there are some questions. They need Lawson to kind of have a bounce back year. I like Franklin Myers. I think he's a solid, secondary guy. They really just need one of McDonald, Johnson, and Clemens to kind of work out. Because if Lawson can bounce back and you have those 3 pieces, that's a pretty good pass rush.
But if Lawson bounces back and one of those other 3 pieces hits, this could be a great pass rush.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a real chance for this group to be really good. And, I mean, if they have a great pass rush with this secondary, I mean, it's going to be almost impossible to score on this team.
Yeah, they're a really good team. I mean, the Jets are a very good team. I'm expecting high things from them. I might be expecting higher things from them than you are. Because, again, you have the quarterback. I think there is absolutely a scenario where if this team hits their ceiling, it is a Super Bowl championship. I for sure believe that. As of right now, I'm going 12-5 for my prediction. I think Rodgers I still have as a tier 1 quarterback, tier 1 coverage. So out of the 3 main categories, quarterback, receiver, and coverage, they have tier 1s at 2 of those, and then a tier 4 at the other one. But still, in tier 3s across the board for me. So yeah, I think they're a very good team.
I agree. I think they can be a very good team, and I wouldn't be shocked if this is a 12-13 win team. I just, it's so new, it feels like, that I almost just need to see it happen first, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's just kind of the thing it feels like with the Jets this year. And how many times have we seen the Jets have a big grandmaster plan and it blown up in their face? Brett Favre.
Every time. Every single time.
Yeah. But that being said, this on paper looks like it's going to be a really good team. Like I said, I do think there is a chance that, especially on the offensive side of the ball, the offensive line kind of blows this thing up. That being said, though, like, the difference between the Jets, at least this year and last year, is Aaron Rodgers is not going to throw them out of games like Zach Wilson did. Know, if they lean on the defense like they did last year, and Aaron Rodgers just takes care of the ball, which he's been one of the best quarterbacks ever to do that,
Hmm.
then this is still probably going to be a 10-win team because that's basically what they were last year if Zach Wilson didn't hand the ball to the other team every game.
Yeah, probably better than that. I mean, they were legitimately in the playoff conversation with the worst quarterback play in the league. Like, it wasn't even, even like when Mike White was out there. I mean, Joe Flacco was the one like bright spot as a quarterback for them last year.
Yeah. They should have played him. I keep saying it.
Apparently, in hindsight, yeah. What he could have done something in the playoffs. Kyle, only 7% predicted the Patriots to win the division. Do you want to guess what percentage picked the Jets to win the division? And what do you think are the community tab? Where do you think they had the Jets ranked?
Let's say they finished third in the poll at 19%.
Very close percentage wise, 22%, but I was actually good enough for second. There was a
Ooh.
team that finished 18% as well.
Wow, this is spicy.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm going to disagree here with the consensus. I already disagree with the consensus poll, but maybe even more.
Okay, yeah, because that's a slight disagreement so far. You had them a little bit lower than the consensus had them. Who do you have finishing second in what you said is the toughest division in football?
The Buffalo Bills.
Okay.
Um, this team has, had a stranglehold in this division for the last couple seasons. Which feels weird to say about the AFC East that the Bills had a stranglehold in the division because it's been one team for 20 years.
Hmm.
But the last few years
Which
they
team
have
was that? I
dominated
don't
this.
remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
I don't know. Might be the Patriots.
Maybe, maybe.
So, look, I think that this, Josh Allen is probably the best player in this division. And that's high regard for me because I think there's a lot of blue chippers in this division. He's probably the best player in this division, and he takes on. I think I said it before this. I think he takes on the most responsibility of any quarterback in football. I think that they ask him to do more than anybody else in the league, and he takes on a ton of that responsibility and then a ton of that burden. That being said, he takes on a lot of that burden because I have some concerns about certain spots on the roster. I'm not concerned about Stephon Diggs' contract situation and all that. I think he's going to play, and I think he's going to be very good. I'm not concerned about some of the guys on the defense. They have some real blue chippers, but I'm concerned about just about everywhere else. I think there's some real questions about the offensive line. I think there's real there's real concerns about the backfield still. I think there's still concerns about secondary receiver, which for Buffalo, it feels like we've been saying that for 3 years. I have concerns about the secondary, which was confusingly bad last season for a Sean McDermott team. They lost one of their best players on defense in Terrell Edmonds. So, I have some concerns across the roster for this team, and that's why I have them second.
Yeah, there's absolutely reasons to have concerns about this team. Absolutely. I totally agree. I also think there's reason to be optimistic still if you are a Buffalo Bills fan. I actually think this might be the biggest boom or bust team in in this division. While a lot of people might say the Jets are that team, or maybe even someone would say the Patriots were that team. No, I think this team has real boom or bust potential. And it all starts with the guy who kind of has become known for the boom or bust quarterback, although last year not so much. Last year was just boom with Josh Allen. He kind of, I thought, had his best year. And, I have tier 1 quarterback play and tier 2 coaching with Sean McDermott. Now, I know people have kind of turned on McDermott a little bit. I'm still a fan. So, at the end of the day, while there are some concerns, you have 2 really good guys at the 2 most important positions in football. That's going to, make the concerns a little bit less concerning.
Yeah. Josh Allen's awesome. He's one of the best in the league. Like I said, PFF grade the last 2 years has been third each of the last 2 years. So obviously, the numbers back it up. He's one of the best mobile quarterbacks in the league. I mean, there's just really not much, there is some weakness to his game. I think the red zone thing last season was a bit of a concern, but I also think the secondary talent around him added to that. And so, yeah, I mean, I think he's fantastic and he's going to be an MVP candidate for the next few years for sure.
Yeah, for sure, and could finally win one as well. Let's talk about the guys who will try to help him win one at the skill position. For running back, you have James Cook. I'm giving it a tier 3 running back. I think it's fine. And then the receiving room, we talk about the secondary receivers. I'm with you. I think Diggs is going to play. I think Diggs is going to play very well. But who are the other? Is this the year Gabe Davis breaks out and has a great year a great year as a number 2 for them. What are we going to see out of Khalil Shakir? They added Trent Sherfield. I actually kind of like the depth for this team. You have Deontay Hardy in the mix, and then Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. So, well, a lot of times a team that has a great receiver and then a lack of depth, I kind of only give them tier 4 for receiving room. I'm giving this tier 3 because I think there's more depth than some of those other teams, but I still don't love their number 2 option. And I tier grade the receiving rooms very harshly, just because there's so many good receiving rooms out there. So tier 3 for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think if you catch Gabe Davis on the right night, you think he's absolutely like a standout number 2 option, right?
Yeah.
Like there are going to be games where he has like 3 touchdowns,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a lot because Stephon Diggs is taking a lot of attention. But yeah, I mean, I think it's inconsistent, and I think that's okay. But I think last year was probably his best year of his career, and maybe it gets better going forward. Maybe he takes another leap. But I do think the depth is slightly better, like you said. I think Khalil Shakir is an interesting player. I think Trent Sherfield has some moments. Like you said, Knox, and maybe, Kincaid is someone that I really liked in the draft process. So maybe it's one of those guys turns into the number 2, but it's just, we have to see it. We have to see it first. And I think that there is potential here, but I just don't know how much I have faith. When you're comparing to some of the teams around them and some of the teams they have to compete with, I have concerns at that spot. That's all it is.
Yeah. Especially when, while we like those tight ends, they might have to be doing a lot more blocking than you would want with this offensive line, which has some holes in it. I mean, I like Deion Dawkins a lot as a tackle, but other than that, I mean, Connor McGovern, Mitch Morse, and Ryan Bates as an interior. It's already a lacking interior. We also have Spencer Brown, who really has not shown much, a third-round pick a couple years ago now, entering his 3rd year. So, like, you have one player. This is it's a tier 4 offensive line. There are some worse offensive lines in the league, but not a ton. In fact, I had them as the 6th worst overall offensive line. So they just escaped the bottom tier for me. But I think there's enough hope here. But yeah, I don't love this offensive line.
Yeah, I think this is bad. In fact, I don't see a lot of strengths here. Like you said, Dawkins. I mean, Dawkins is a pretty good tackle, like you said, but is he like a top 10 left tackle in the league? Like, I don't even think he's that potentially. So,
Yeah,
I mean, if your best player is probably a maybe fringe top 15 left tackle, I think that's a concern. And the rest of the guys are that much worse. So yeah, I mean, they are. The good news is that Josh Allen is so good at what he does, and he's almost impossible to sack, that it's going to probably make this offensive line look better than what it is. But I have concerns about them blocking for him in passing game, and also in the run game too. How do these guys block for him? And this is a team that has struggled to run the ball over the years. If they don't have the offensive line in front of it, I think it's going to be even worse.
Yeah, I mean, to wrap up the offense, we're basically sitting here saying, man, Josh Allen's really going to have to, be Superman here for the Bills. And when I was going back to just get the thumbnail for this video, I checked out our last 2 times we had covered this division, and both times, all the comments were like, "Why are you guys so low on the Bills?" And they were right both times. I mean, we were too low on the Bills, so. It's only a fool who bets against Josh Allen, but I can understand why someone would bet against this Bills offense.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there is reason for concern, but it's probably still going to be good. So it feels silly to say it now, but I think it's kind of the similar thing where I think this is going to be a really good team. But when we talk about, especially in this division where I think 3 teams are contenders, and just the AFC in general where there's a lot of contenders. When you talk about this team as a Super Bowl team, I think this is where the concerns lie.
Yeah. The coverage is, I mean, Tre'Davious White is one of the more interesting players in the league right now because he's so important to this team. Last year, the secondary was actually pretty good before Tre'Davious White came back from the injury. It kind of had White try to be a number 1 corner, and he just wasn't very good in that situation. And so the question is that him trying to come back from an injury too soon? Is now that he's back up to game speed and has a full, preseason and all that, will he go back to being great? If he does, this is a potential tier 1 coverage unit. You have Kair Elam and Taron Johnson, who I think are definitely good, 2 and 3 guys for sure. So, you would feel good about that with Taylor Rapp and Jordan Poyer as your safeties. If he struggles, this is a significantly worse coverage unit. And this could be, they have I think they could actively be a below average coverage unit. I'm going to give it tier 2. I'm not going to bet against Tre'Davious White fully. I'm definitely hedging my bet a little bit because I think you could make the argument for tier 1. Because again, you also have to throw in having one of the better coverage linebackers in the league, Matt Milano. That helps a lot as well. And I do think for the most part they coach well. It's just here's where things could go wrong. Is either Tre'Davious White comes in and is is a mess, and they play him. I guess that's what I'm saying. The only way this could be a disaster is if Tre'Davious White comes in and they play him. If Tre'Davious White sucks and they bench him, it's not a disaster. But if he comes in and still sucks and they just keep playing him, then that's where it could be really concerning.
Yeah. It obviously struggled last year. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he handles that responsibility. And, like you said, if it isn't working out, are the Bills prepared to kind of cut bait with it? Because it was bad last season. So yeah, I'm interesting. I mean, even then, I think Elam has potential. Maybe he takes the leap in year 2, but I don't know. Would you feel confident in betting on Kaiir Elam to be potentially the number 1 guy?
No, definitely not number 1. I think I'm not against him being a number 2 guy. I think I still like, I think that I'm interested in, especially him year 2. I don't have an issue with that. But number 1, that'd be really concerning.
Yeah, that's just where my concerns lie. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, like you said, there is Poyer, there is Micah Hyde, there is Taylor Rapp, DeMar Hamlin too. Maybe that sets the high floor, but at the same time, Hyde and Poyer are 32. They're not young anymore. So how can they continue to be that good? And so yeah, I have some real concerns about this group, and it wasn't good last year. So I could see it being better. I could see it bouncing back, but I could also see it being bad again because we just saw that.
Well, the way you're talking about the Bills, I'm surprised you had them at number 2.
It's nitpicking a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the thing. I went through the Jets and I said I had a bunch of concerns with the Jets too.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, it's the thing where it's like the Bills just have great spots, so that's what that's kind of they're not a complete roster the way some of these other teams are, but they have the greatness in specific spots. The defensive line, the front 7 is the kind of both of that. Of great players and some weaknesses as well, where it's like, okay, what are we seeing out of Ed Oliver? Obviously the Bills, pay him some money. They like Ed Oliver, but you have Daquan Jones also on the interior. The edges, I would say good. You have, again, what are we getting out of Von Miller? That's kind of the question, right? But as long as we get Von Miller being Von Miller, this is a very good edge with Gregory Rousseau and Shaq Lawson as depth. I already brought up Matt Milano. Don't love their other linebacker situation, but similar to New England, I don't think they're going to try to use that too frequently. So there's again, are we going to see AJ Espinoza take a step up? Boogie Basham, is he going to take a step up? Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But for now, also I can't forget Leonard Floyd, who has definitely, I think, is a good a very he wasn't worth the contract with the Rams, but he's still a good player. So I'm going tier 2 pass rush, tier 4 run defense, though.
Yeah, the run defense I also have some concerns with. So concerns all around for the Bills, but I really like this edge rushing group. I'm surprised it's not tier 1. I think a healthy Miller's awesome, Rousseau's awesome. Even if they're not living up to their full potential, I think Basham and Epineza are decent depth pieces, and like you said, those are they're still even behind probably Lawson and Leonard Floyd too. So not only are they really good at the top, they're 6 deep when it comes to edge. I think they're going to be able to get after the quarterback, and that's probably going to be the biggest thing to helping this secondary too, is that they can rush the passer and they have so many bodies to throw at them. I think that's easily the strength of this defense, along with Matt Milano.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is, again, it's similar because it's Tre'Davious White and Von Miller both are Von Miller's now coming off of an injury and he's 34 years old. So I just don't know what I'm getting out of Von Miller. But if those two guys hit, if those 2 star players play like stars, this is absolutely a good defense. And if they don't, this is absolutely a bad defense. I mean, sometimes you can simplify things here, which I think you can for Buffalo. So they are a team that if everything hits right, again, another team that could win the Super Bowl. That is in the cards for them. I do think, them having a down year and even missing the playoffs is another thing that is in the cards for them if some of those stars don't play well.
Yeah. I think this team has because of Josh Allen and because of some of their stars, I think they are going to be a very good team. I don't just know how much I trust them to win a Super Bowl at this point with this team. I think, like you said, I think a lot still has to go right, and I don't know if a lot can go right. I think a few things can go right, but is everything going to go right? I mean, I don't know. That seems like a tough ask. But that being said, every year I keep thinking maybe this team slips a little bit because some of the, it just feels like that they've had their depth chiseled at every year after year for these past few years. Is this the year the dam might finally break? I don't know. But I mean, with Josh Allen, with some of these guys, they should still be very good.
Yeah, I'm going to give them the same record I gave the Jets. I'm going 12-5 here. I think that this is a team that I think I'm going to give the Jets a slight edge over Buffalo. I'm going to put Buffalo below them. So same record, but I'll put the Jets ahead of them in the rankings. But I'm not betting against Josh Allen. I've been burned too many times, Kyle. I can't do it again. I think they're a contender.
I think that's completely fair. I think they're in the conversation. And Allen is terrific. So yeah, I mean, I understand it. It'll be interesting to watch them next year. That's for sure. And I think this division's fascinating. I think they're one of the more fascinating teams because I don't know, like it feels like was the 13 seconds game their window? Does this team still have a window to win a Super Bowl? I'm curious to see how it looks the next few years.
Yeah, definitely very. I think as long as they have Josh Allen, they have a chance. I mean, maybe they'll have to rebuild for a year or two, but I don't think I don't think their window's closed until he isn't wearing a Bills uniform.
Yeah, that's probably the right answer.
The Miami Dolphins are your pick to win the toughest division in football. How do we get here? A couple years ago, the Dolphins couldn't even finish above 500. Now they are, you're saying that they are going to go 17-0, be this second team ever, other than an earlier Dolphins team to go undefeated throughout 20-0. Why are you picking the Dolphins to go 20-0, Kyle?
I'm not picking them to go 20-0, but I'm picking them to win this division. And I think they are probably the best Super Bowl contender in the AFC outside of KC right now. I reserve the right to change that, but this team had a lot of really good things happen to them last year. They made some key signings. Everything, with those kind of worked. Tua took a leap with the receiving core around him. He was awesome last year when he was healthy. All that looked great. And then the things that I thought Miami struggled with last year, particularly their secondary, their defensive coordinator, their running game, they kind of addressed all that. So when I put all that together, I just don't know, how bad this could be for Miami. I think they're pretty good at almost every position. There are a couple concerns, but I think that they're still an incredibly high floor, an incredibly high ceiling. I think this seems dangerous.
Yes, I think some people in the chat were shocked to hear that you were having them go 20-0. No, I was just saying that jokingly, but yeah. Luke Brown in the chat says fins up. Yeah, I mean, this is a team that, again, you do kind of have to say if it hits though, right? Because the two most important guys for this team, Mike McDaniel and Tua. McDaniel looked awesome as a head coach last year. I think I have him as a tier 2 head coach, could easily continue climbing. Actually, no, I believe I had him at tier 3 currently, but that's just because he's been in the league for a little amount of time. I'm projecting that to go up. Tua, you have to say when healthy, right? You do. I mean, you can't just say Tua is great. You have to say Tua is great when healthy. And if he can turn into just Tua is great, end of sentence, then this is fantastic. Tua, I think, was underrated last year. I think Tua did some really nice things, and it wasn't just the situation around him. He'll still have the same situation, though, so even if it was, you're not too concerned about it. Is he going to stay healthy? That's the question.
Is he going to stay healthy is the question, but like you said, it looked darn good when he played. So that's something to get really excited about. His vertical ball last year was fantastic. Working with Hill and Waddle was fantastic. And yeah, I mean, there was some really good stuff last year. I will say, I think they did a good job of addressing backup quarterback this year. You're not the biggest Mike White fan. To be fair, there are a few irrational Mike White fans, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like from what I saw with him in the Jets, I think he can come in and run this offense if things, if things go south with Tua if he gets hurt. So I think they address that spot, and I think bar, I guess knock on wood, is he going to get hurt that much again? I mean, I just feel like that's kind of crazy to say he's going to get hurt that much again. So I'm just hoping he's going to be able to play and stay healthy because he looked really good when he did play, and maybe White has to fill in for a spot starter too.
I mean, of course, you could get hurt again. I mean, I think that's like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's that tends to be the case. Is guys that get hurt a lot tend to be more likely to get hurt in the future. But I mean, the Mike White thing. We don't spend forever on Mike White. He's looked good in the 2 games that he's looked good, and then hasn't looked good since. Like he's
Yes.
shown flashes. I don't hate him. If I'm paying decent backup quarterback money, I would have rather gotten a better backup quarterback.
Yeah. I think that's fair, but at the same time, like I don't know who out there was that much better. Maybe an Andy Dalton sort of situation, but at the same time, I think they did an okay job with that.
Okay, well, we'll agree to disagree. I'm sure Mike White will come in, play one great game, and then he'll play 3 bad games, and everyone will forget about him. We'll see how that can go. But yeah, I mean, it's very fascinating, and the reality is, it is a great situation. I mean, the best, not even debatably, it's the best wide receiver duo in football, right? Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That's it. The conversation starts at 2. The depth isn't great. And the depth didn't have to be great last year, but they kind of had some players like Trent Sherfield came in and did some things, and now he's gone. Mike Gesicki is gone. So it's like, who's going to come in, and it is Braxton Berrios, who's probably going to, they're probably going to ask him to do some stuff this year. What's he going to be able to do, out of the as the third option, as Durham Smythe going to be expected to do some things at the tight end position. It's still tier 1 wide receiving core because of the greatness of those 2 guys. I'm also going to give it a tier 3 running back room with Raheem Mostert and Myles Gaston. Although, you would say that the running backs don't tend to matter too much in this scheme, is what I would say. But it's Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. That's what we talk about here.
Yeah. I mean, they're awesome. You have 2 number 1 options on this team. And one of those number 1 options might be, the best receiver, in the conversation for best receiver in the league. If not, probably definitely in the top 5, in my opinion. So you have those 2 options. It's awesome. You don't really get concerned about the depth because of that. But that being said, there are a few concerns. I like Cedric Wilson. I've always just kind of liked him. Maybe he takes a leap to be the 3rd guy. There's a few guys there that you can talk yourself into, but it's all kind of theoretical, number 3 options. Like you said, Sherfield was a pretty good player for them. And then running back, I know that Wilson and Mostert are there, but Devin Achane's a guy. I really liked him in college. I think he's got high potential. And, I think he could be a really good running back in this system. So I think this could be really good.
Yeah, and that's for the offensive line. Teron Armstead's great. You have I like Connor Williams and I like Robert Hunt on the interior. I'm interested in seeing what's the Isaiah Wynn situation. You can probably speak more on that than I can. It looks like they're going to expect him to be a starting tackle unless Austin Jackson's going to be the guy. I hope it's not Austin Jackson being the guy for their sake. I'm a little like, are we really doing the Liam Eichenberg thing again? Is it going to be him? Are you going to go Robert Jones instead? I probably would feel more comfortable putting Jones in there just because Eichenberg was not very good last year. So I'm going tier 3 offensive line. It has its flashes. A couple questions here as well, though, for me.
There are a couple questions. I think Wynn's going to play left guard. That's my guess.
Okay. And then you have are we doing Austin Jackson at tackle?
Probably. Like they don't have.
I don't know if I'd love that.
I don't love it, but I think I'd rather replace Eichenberg than replace Jackson still. And I don't love Jackson.
I guess so. I guess that's fair.
Yeah. So I think Wynn's going to play left guard. And that being said, like I'm not thrilled with Isaiah Wynn either. There's concerns there too. He still is a guy who I think has high potential. He showed flashes of being really good in New England. The flags are obviously an issue, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if he can put it all together. But that being said, the top 3 guys on this team for the offensive line are all very good. So that sets a high floor. if they figure out those two spots, I think that's, potentially a really good offensive line, but I'm just not convinced in any of those guys.
Yeah. The coverage unit. Let's move on to defense. Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, Kader Kohu, Javon Holland, and Deshaun Elliott. Tier 1. I have no notes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the surprising thing last year was the secondary struggled mightily. It dealt with a lot of injuries, but they bring in Vic Fangio. They
Heard of
bring in
him.
a few other guys. That should be an excellent secondary this year. I imagine that fixes a lot of the issues. I'm expecting a big bounce back year from Xavier Howard. I'm expecting a bigger bounce back year from Javon Holland, who looked like a monster 2 years ago. So I think he could be very good. It does stink that Jalen Ramsey's hurt and not going to be back till potentially December. Because if you had Jalen Ramsey, I mean, this is probably the best secondary in the league. No notes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and he's going to come back, so I'm kind of, but yeah, that's absolutely fair. Hey, you got Eli Apple to replace him. You're fine.
Yeah. Don't love it, but at the same time, he's been solid the last couple of years, so maybe he's solid again. But yeah, I mean, even then, like the other three guys are good enough too.
Yeah, very fast. And again, Vic Fangio, he knows what he's doing there. Didn't like Tyreek Hill like have that quote that like he's like, well, now I'm glad I get to beat Eli Apple in practice. Like even like his teammates just trash talk him constantly.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Incredible. Eli Apple has to be. I think he's the most disliked player in the NFL. Like even like I think Deshaun Watson. It seems like there's weirdly some players who still like him. Like I feel like Eli Apple's the most disliked among NFL players.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I'm trying to even think who would be in the conversation.
Yeah, I feel like there's like criminals where it's like, yeah, but they're at least a good hang.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's probably fair. Receivers definitely hate him.
Yeah, seems like it. The front seven, Jalen Phillips took that leap last year. Jalen Phillips looked great last season, and with Bradley Chubb next to him, who I don't know if I don't know if I loved that trade, but still very good number 2 edge rusher. You would think Andrew Van Ginkel out of the depth position there, also for interior Christian Wilkins and Zach Seidler. There you have Jerome Baker and David Long for the linebacking situation as well. I'm going to give this tier 2s across the board. I think there's a lot of good stuff here, Kyle.
Yes, I agree. But just between Wilkins, Chubb, and Phillips, that's awesome. Like that's an awesome trio right there.
And you still have Emmanuel Ogbah, who I know, it's been a minute since he's looked like great, but he's still on the roster too.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of really good pieces here. I like Baker and Long too. Like that's a solid group. I guess if you could nitpick one thing, it's the nose tackle, right? Like, is that going to be good enough? But at the same time, there's so many good players there that like I'm not overly concerned about Davis.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, this is a loaded roster. I mean, that's just the way to look at it. This is a defense that could be awesome. If both these teams if both these sides of the ball live up to their potential, you could, in theory, have the best offense and the best defense in the league. Like that's their ceiling.
Yeah, I think it absolutely is. I think this looks the part of a contender when you look at this entire roster. Everything looks really good. I think you could say, okay, well, the secondary was bad last year. Is that a concern? I trust these guys a little bit too much. The Xavier Howard thing wasn't even really an injury like Tre'Davious White. And I just trust Vic Fangio to kind of manage that as best he can, even if the guys kind of lack. So I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I made an off-season video about why I'm betting on Xavier Howard to have a bounce back year. I think that in that Vic Fangio scheme, it'll work out really well for him. And I've never been wrong when I made a video about something, Kyle.
You're 100%?
Yeah, 100%. It's incredible. The only thing that worries me is the Tua injury stuff. That's what scares me. But just for prediction as of right now, I'm not saying I will definitely sit here and give this team a Super Bowl championship prediction. But right now I'm going 14-3 for them, which is the highest prediction I've handed out. I think this is a loaded roster. They're great in the spots where you need to be great to have success, which is quarterback, receiving play, and coverage. And they're still very good everywhere else across the board.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like when we agree this much. This is surprising.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Interestingly, the community tab is not on our side. Dolphins at third with just 18%. I think people are sleeping on Miami.
If they're third, I think so too, because I think this roster, like you said, is loaded. There's so many guys here. Like I don't know. I I guess the one thing is like they're. I think two of their most important guys have kind of major injury red flags, and like you said, it was Tua last year, and it's also Teron Armstead because like I
Hmm.
could see this offensive line kind of falling apart if Armstead's hurt.
Yeah.
Just because like he is that important to this group. So those are the two things that they kind of need. But at the same time, like I think top to bottom, you look at this roster, it's one of the best in the league starting wise.
Yeah. I mean, this team still managed to make the playoffs, last season, despite that, and they also nearly beat the Bills in that game. Like, I feel like we kind of forgot about that. Like, they like almost found a way to pull that upset off. The Bills, 53% of the community tab predicting to win the division. That is
That feels high.
yeah, that feels very high. I mean, I was looking at the old past ones. 80% said the 49ers, but 51% said the Saints, 52% said the Lions, and 53% with the Bills. I think I forgot to post another one. But a lot of people expecting the Bills to win the division, which they very well could. I don't think it's a crazy take. They're certainly in the same, they're a very good team, but that feels very. I was very surprised at how high. I thought it was going to be pretty split between Jets, Dolphins, and Bills.
I would have assumed so too, just because I think that group is so competitive. That being said, the Bills have, like I said, they've had a stranglehold in this division the last couple of years. Maybe that plays a part in it.
Hmm.
We're just gonna have to see. I think it's fascinating. I guess there is some variable of unknown when it comes to the Dolphins and Jets, where the Bills have stayed really consistent the last couple of years. So maybe that's the difference in the voting. But I don't know. It could be the year that the Bills are knocked off the pedestal by the Patriots.
It could be the year that the Bills are knocked off the pedestal by the Patriots. I don't know if I'd bet on it, but we'll see.
Um,
7% of the people that voted are with you, Kyle.
I love that 7%. Don't doubt us yet. Um, it's going to be a tough road to win the division for the Patriots, though.
Do you think some of that is like, I wonder if people just vote and are like, well, I know the Patriots, I don't expect them to actually win the division, but like, I like the Patriots, so I'll pick them anyway. Or like, the Patriots deserve a little bit of love, so I'm going to give it to them anyway.
I think you have some Patriots fans in your, subscriber base. That's what it is.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I'm always fascinated by that. But yeah, that is the AFC East. I mean, again, I had one team going 8-9, two 12-5, and one 14-3. So that just shows how dominant those are. And what? So next week, where are we going next week again?
AFC North.
AFC North. Yes. So we're
Getting the
knocking
heavy
out
hitters out of the way, yeah.
Yeah, very fascinating stuff. All four of those teams are also incredibly interesting to talk about.
Uh, yeah. I think it's in the challenge for the best division of football. You could probably argue it's the best division in football. I think some of the teams have a little bit of a lower floor, which we'll talk about next week. So looking forward to that one. It's going to be extremely competitive. Once again, all four of those teams are going to be talking about potentially making the playoffs, and a couple of them are going to be talking about potentially making the Super Bowl. So it's going to be awesome.
Yes, and we will have a spirited debate as to why you are a Kenny Pickett hater and you need to stop sleeping on him.
I think I've been pro Kenny Pickett here, haven't I?
I don't know.
I've been pro Kenny.
Maybe. I don't remember.
I'm not as high as you, but I've been pro Kenny.
Well, I think maybe you should be as high as me.
It's pretty funny though. I saw a list of like quarterbacks by ages, and he's like 26, and I'm just like, this is ridiculous.
Right.
This is a grown ass man in his second year. He's like 2 years younger than Patrick Mahomes. It's like he's
Yeah.
played less years than Mahomes has MVPs. It's stupid.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Well, we'll talk about those. Kyle, let them know where they can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Ronan. And make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Yes, of course. If you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, it's on the Sideline Podcast. Search that. This will be available, so check that out if you want to. And yeah, tune in next week, Wednesday at 5 Eastern, when we will go over the AFC North. Always a fun discussion there. Kyle, I'm sorry your Red Sox are back in last place.
It was expected at this point.
Mhm.
This team is very frustrating, even though I think it's just a brutal division. It really just is.
Yeah,
So
they're still above 500.
yeah, I mean, they would be in second in the Central and potentially pushing for first. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they'd be a game out if they were in the Central.
I don't know what's going to happen this year. Feels like it might be. I don't know. Might be talking to myself in the Rangers or the Orioles.
Yeah, it's tough with the Rays. I mean, just McClanahan's out for the year. We just can't stay healthy.
Yeah. And you had been cooling off since that hot stretch to start the year too. So I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
we had a tough stretch. We bounced back at this point. But we're
Yeah.
I'm not overly like they're now 7-3 in their last 10. Like they had a rough stretch, but I think they just had a rough stretch. It was it was one of those situations where like their best like four hitters all got cold at the same time. But
Yeah.
like I still think they're a very good team, but now we have to catch up to Baltimore.
Yeah. I don't know. I think this season's over. Otani's won MVP. Ronald Acuna's won MVP. The Braves are going to win the World Series. That's it.
I mean, it's baseball. We all know that's not. They're probably going to get knocked out in the first round because baseball is weird and it's a crapshoot once you get to the playoffs.
This Braves team is winning the World Series. Look at this team. It's too good. It's winning the World Series.
I believe they're 5 games ahead of the Dodgers currently. One game ahead of the Orioles.
That's nice. I don't know. I don't see a team going to beat Spencer Strider, Max Fried, this group and this lineup enough times. I mean, this is too good of a team right now. So yeah, they're winning the World Series.
I'll bet you $10 they do not win the World Series. I'll take the field over the Braves.
All right, bet.
Okay, sounds good. I like interleague play ruin the sport. I'll always love a good old man yells at clouds baseball take.
Yeah. I don't know what interleague did, but
I think once they put lights in Wrigley Field, that's when it was over.
Yeah, I agree. Once they banned the shift, it was over.
Yeah, you gotta love dismissive Kyle. You do gotta love dismissive Kyle. Again, thank you to everybody for listening to this. Kyle, any final thoughts before we head out?
Looking forward to the AFC North next week, so it should be a good conversation and spirited debate. Everybody show up.
Yes. Oh, and last thing, we will not be mentioning the record of the Orioles at Tropicana Field. Can't mention that.
Yeah.
Don't want any suspensions.
Yeah, that would be bad for us. So, what a ridiculous story.
That would have been a good bit, actually. I should have put like a stat on the screen and then got mad at you when you read it.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Gotta love rich people with big egos.
Yes. No, you don't. Actually, you do not have to love that.
Yeah. They're pretty insufferable.
All right. Well, again, great way to end the show. Thank you to everybody. We do appreciate it. Until next time, have a good one.
Peace.